Welcome to the iPhoneography Podcast. I'm Greg McMillan, your host, and uh, it is, as we record, Monday, November 17th, 2025. Well, I keep saying this probably every week now. It's hard to believe this year's almost over. Um, but this week, we're going to kind of continue on a little bit from our last show where we talked about third-party camera apps. And something that we mentioned a couple of times was the Apple camera is a great app, but it's really, really good until it isn't. That means there's things that you want to do, creative ways to explore your photography that it just can't do. And we're going to talk about some third-party camera apps to do with Panorama. Now, the Panorama mode in the iPhone is really good, but there's sometimes there's different ways you want to do a panorama that you just can't achieve with that. So, on that note, I will bring in Mr. Dwight Broman. Hello, Dwight.
Hello, everyone. Hey, Greg.
Good. And you're not in the rain just yet, but you said there's more coming.
Yeah, yeah. We don't know what to do with ourselves out here when it rains.
Yeah.
Everybody just
Uh,
runs into each other.
yeah, that's right. Um, and Mr. Dave Podner and his beloved Leo behind him, who is sadly
Yes.
passed, but you never forget.
Oh no.
Um, so you told us that your dad was getting a bit of rain too in Palm Springs, which
hmm
is not, it's not very common down there.
No, no. I mean, it is very unusual for them to get rain, and I mean, luckily, it was like he said, we need it. So he wasn't,
Yeah,
like, oh, it's raining. It's over. It's like, okay, it's raining. You know, but they needed it. It's really dry out there.
yeah. Well, a little rain never hurts. It's when you get
No,
way too much that it becomes a problem. So um,
or it
we
becomes that
get
white
we get
stuff.
our yeah. We get our fair share of rain around here, and well, mind you, it was a bit of a dry summer. But anyway, we're going to talk about some panorama. Um, so Will Newcomb is in the chat room there. Hey, Will, and he's for the first time. He's ready and waiting. He was here before the show started, so good to have you here, Will. Um, this this episode is well, I mean, it was planned before Will did this, but in our Facebook group, Will put a nice panorama, and I said, um, I forget what I said now, but it had something to do with being a coded message about the upcoming podcast because he's done that before. When we did our portrait mode episode, he was putting a bunch of portrait mode shots in the group. And I'm thinking, okay, just hold off. Don't post anymore until after the show. So it's almost like because he's in Tomorrowland, as far as we're concerned, like it's down there. It's like just after 8 o'clock in the morning. It's almost like he already knows what we're going to be talking about here tonight. So kind of like Shane down in Australia. But anyway, I just thought that was kind of humorous that he was posting things that we're going to be talking about. So, but I think the first thing we'll do is Dave explain a little bit about the portrait or the portrait. Now I'm thinking portrait mode again about the panoramic feature in the iPhone camera app itself.
hmm So it is built in and it continually gets better. It's been in the iPhone app for a while now. And the way you get to it, and now it depends if you've updated to iOS 26 or not. But once you go to the built-in camera app, and I'm looking at now just to make sure I get it 100% right, down below. Now, if you're in the older version, um, making sure she didn't jump on the keyboard. If you're in the older version, you'll just kind of slide side to side. On the newer version, you can just kind of down below where it says video and photo, you can just slide all the way to the right there and it'll say pano. Then on the screen, it'll give you a little window showing you what is taking a picture of. And you can basically, it gives you an arrow on how you're going to move it and align. So Apple has it set up where you don't have to, you just rotate with the camera. So you don't have to horizontally move. You can just stay in one place, start on one edge of your image, and just rotate the camera, and it'll tell you if you're moving too quick. And just keep that arrow on the center line. And if you want to finish it early, you can just hit the button to finish it, or you can go all the way across and it'll take an entire item there. Now, part of the problem with the iPhone built-in, and this is true with most panoramas, is it is a very wide and not very tall aspect ratio. So you're looking at something in your phone and you're starting to move it, you have to realize you're not seeing a lot of you're not seeing a lot of vertical that's going to come out in the end camera. So you may want to use the 0.5 zoom, because if you do the 0.5 zoom, you make sure you get enough vertical. And if you crop in, you get rid of any of the spherical, the aberrations that happen in the corner images sometimes of the 0.5 zoom. So it comes out to be a little bit better if you do 0.5 versus but you can try do it on the zoom mode. If it's something far off in the distance, you can do a zoom. It's just going to give you a very narrow, and with the telephoto, if you move it just a little bit, like I said, automatically does a pretty good job keeping it lined up a lot better than it used to do. But it's still something you kind of have to watch out for that way. Now, the other thing that a lot of people don't realize, panoramas like this aren't just horizontal. You can do vertical. So on the iPhone built-in, you can just rotate your camera and click it, and mine is showing just go up. And that way, if you have a very tall object, like you're close to a very tall building or a tall, a very steep hill or a series of steps or something like that, you can just take a panorama going vertical and you can get that very good feel of very, very tall.
Yeah. And I've done that. Oh gosh, when was it? I don't know how many years ago we were at a museum where we were on it was like the second floor, and in this big open space they were reconstructing an old ship, and it was obviously fairly high. So that's what I did, was I started down low with the panorama part of the iPhone camera, and I went up like this, and I was able to get the whole thing. So that's a great tip, and a very good use case for like a vertical panorama like that. So there are a bunch of different apps like this in the App Store, because so many developers make camera apps for so many different things. Dave, the first one you're going to talk about is called XPan, but it's spelled XP4N, like there's a play on the spelling
Right.
there.
Right. And it's an older app, so it's been around for a while, and it does cost money, but there's no subscription. So I just checked it, and it's $1.99 on the US App Store. But again, that's it. It's not so much per month, it's a simple buy it and you're good with it. The nice thing is about this is it does give you the pano, the 16 by 24 ratio. So it's, very wide. It's a very straightforward user interface. It does give you some options though. So when you just open it up, it looks like it's a little skeuomorphic. So it looks like the back of a camera. So you get a feeling of like a metal back of a camera with a viewfinder in the middle. You do have different kind of filters that they do have built in. So if you're looking to have a different feel for your photo, nice thing is they describe it. So like it goes low light, and it says cinematic halation, which we talked about last week, balance, daylight, neon night, this says vibrant glow. So it gives you 8 different ones you can go with. And it does not you don't get that over sharpening that Apple can sometimes give you. So when you get the photos out, you will see it's a little softer. It doesn't have the little extra Apple Magic, I don't think. The other thing that's nice is when you look at the options in the back. So you do have an option to get the unprocessed image. So by default, you only get whatever filter, whatever setting you used. You can actually make it where you'll get the unaltered image. So if you want to do something else with it and just keep the aspect ratio, you can do that. You can, and this is something you have to turn on, enable the wide angle lens. By default, it's not there. So you
That's
can
interesting.
I think it's just because the age of the app, it didn't have,
Oh,
when
could
it
be,
first
yeah.
came out, it wasn't available.
Right.
So it's a very simple way to switch. You just double tap the screen to go between the different lenses. So you go between
Okay.
your ultra wide, your wide, your tele. You just double click, it tells you what you're on. See the new image, double click, kind of going around nice and easy. It does have an option for Insta-friendly image dimension. So basically, on the top and bottom of the image, you have white, basically like a white border that's thick
Oh,
enough
okay.
where, because Instagram, if it's really narrow, will just say, "Oh, we don't have to do this."
Yeah, it'll
So
crop a
it'll
whole pile off each end.
exactly. So
Yeah.
this makes it a little bit thicker. It's Instagram still has issues with it, but it gives you a little bit thicker.
Yeah.
And if you don't like it, you can just simply go into the Photos app, hit crop, and crop that out.
Yeah.
So it's up to you.
Okay.
And it does give you, now, I have no idea what this meant. The Ko Tanzanzu scroll format. Basically, that's vertical.
Oh, okay.
So if you want to take a if you want to take a vertical, you can do that option. Just rotate your phone, rotate your phone, take your image, and when it outputs it, it'll output it as a vertical image. So you don't have to worry about rotating. It actually just says, here's your vertical image. Again, I like the fact that you do have different options on how it comes out and how it looks. Also, it's very, and I'm going to try to show it here on camera, see if I can see it here without the glare.
It just tilt it down, Dave.
There
There you go. Yep,
okay.
there.
Okay, so you can see it's the user interface very simple.
Yeah.
You have basically this is just look. And then you have over here, this is where you select your options.
It's kind of like a skeuomorphic thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So there's where you select your options. This is where you select your different looks.
Yeah. Okay.
And then this is your shutter button, and that's it.
Yeah.
So there's very little to it. That's one reason I kind of like it, is that once you get a feeling for, what option you want, you can just, okay, I select my options, I select my look. The options, let's say you set up ahead of time, just pick it up and make sure it's framed, hit the button, and you're done.
Yeah. Okay. Now you got a couple of images here. Were they both taken with XPan?
Yes.
I'll call it XPan for
Yeah.
lack of
I don't
the
know
actual
how
one.
they officially call
Yeah.
XP4N.
Yeah. So we'll look at the first one here. And now I'm not sure which order you wanted to go, but I've got them in the order here of the black and white first.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, these were actually both taken the same day of this race, of the sweatshirt I'm wearing.
Okay,
So
cool.
this was beforehand. And I just like the way that the railroad tracks were, they're active railroad tracks too.
Mhm.
So you have the railroad tracks there. It was exceptionally foggy that day. You can see like a lot of the buildings are like cut off halfway up. And I use the built-in black and white just because I like that feel of, having, and I did some little editing afterwards for toning and everything else, but I just like the bordering with the railroad tracks, and I like the fact that I could get a nice wide view. In terms of, because if it's a normal picture, you wouldn't see the full layout of the city behind it with the tree and the trees on either side kind of framing the beginning and end of the opening there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's basically it's cutting off stuff above and below that would really be irrelevant to the subject of the photo, right?
Mhm.
With all that, it's obviously it's foggy, low-lying clouds or whatever. And I mean, how much of that do you need up top, right? Um,
Exactly.
and then
It
on
solves the
the bottom,
composition crop issue.
Mhm.
yeah, yeah. And Dwight, you're going to touch on composition in a little bit here, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I like the way I love the ratio. I love that the
Mhm.
X-pan ratio, and you know, we should touch. I'll touch on for just a minute here, where that X-pan came from. It originated with Hasselblad. They built an X-pan camera, or a camera that shot in that ratio, and it was in film. And you can take your regular 35 millimeter um, image with the film, or you can, I guess, flick a switch or whatever, and it would take, so film would be 24 by 36, and then the camera had the capability of going like 24 millimeters high, I guess, by 65 millimeters long, and that's where that ratio came in. That's where it came from. And then I believe I just read about this the other day, and I should have made notes, but I'm just kind of going by memory here. But Fuji got into the game with this too, and I'm not sure how. You'd have to look it up in Wikipedia or whatever, but or maybe even on the um, Hasselblad website. But anyway, that's where the X-pan ratio started. It was Hasselblad making their camera, a film camera, capable of shooting 35 millimeter as well as the X-pan ratio. So, um, yeah, so that's that's a good shot there, a nice wide view, and that's the whole thing about panoramas is getting a nice wide view of your scene or your subject or whatever. So, um, your next image is this one here. Now, I this was the same day, correct?
Yeah, same day.
Yeah.
So this was taken over one of the bridge crossings during the race. And again, this is, you could now, on a beautifully clear day, which obviously this isn't. And I don't know if my image on my side is completely frozen. I don't know if it's the same thing for what you guys can see. Am I frozen, or am I just not moving much? I want to make sure that my audio is also coming through. Okay.
Your
We're
audio
not
is coming through
Audio's fine.
fine, but
okay. That's the
your image
important
is
thing.
frozen.
Okay. Well, the audio is the important thing.
Yeah, you're just lagging.
Okay. So you on a from this distance, with a nice clear day, which, like I said, obviously today that day was not. And if you use a zoom like the 8x or 5x, you can actually get a decent view of downtown Pittsburgh. But I wanted to. The nice thing about this aspect ratio is that you get not just a zoomed in view of one little spot, but you see how it kind of fits into the rest of the terrain. So you can see like the railing on the bridge in front of you, Mount Washington on your right, the north side on the left, and downtown in the middle with the river right there. So it gives you a perspective of how everything kind of fits in. And it gives you the additional, you can see the clouds are still there, and being overcast and everything else going on with it.
Yeah, Dave, I think that's a great point. I mean, if you took just a regular photo of that, I mean, how interesting would it be, right? You'd see downtown, maybe some leading lines of the river going to downtown. You'd probably see more of the railing that you'd have to crop out, and more of the sky, which I don't think buys you anything. So I think this is a perfect use case for a panoramic shot.
Yeah,
Thanks, Dwight.
definitely. I was I was trying to get a screen grab of Dave's camera froze with the cat's tail right up there in front of his face like this. And then just as I was getting ready to hit the screenshot button, it moved. So if you're listening to the audio, it's in the YouTube video about 19 minutes in. But so yeah, I mean, there's plenty of good use cases for panorama, and this is definitely one where, like you said, Dwight, it just cuts out unwanted elements of the image, something that you may crop afterwards anyway if you didn't take it as a panel.
Yep.
So
Yep.
Yeah.
yeah. So Will had a good point here, and we'll probably touch on this here shortly, a little more, a little further. But when Dave, you mentioned vertical panels, um, if taking buildings, it's important to pan straight up,
Mm-hmm.
because if you're not careful, you can get curved buildings. And yeah, that's a pretty valid point. Um, I don't know if I've ever tried a panel of a building like that, as opposed to just shooting like an ultra wide.
Well, I
Um,
have tried that, and it does a pretty good, as long as you keep everything kind of centered and you have enough
mhm.
like buffer on either side so your building's not really close. iPhone will do a good job about keeping it kind of vertical. However, you may get a bend.
Oh
So
yeah.
it'll be like you're not looking up at a straight building, but you're kind of looking up like out of the fisheye lens, which
Oh
can be kind of interesting looking, but it's not
yeah. Yeah.
giving you what you want per se.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Could
That's where
get it.
that's where these apps can be a help. If you're not moving the camera, you won't have that issue going on.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna go back to my outline here just so I don't miss anything. Um,
Oh, and Scott, I know one of us got that joke in chat, Scott Baker.
yeah, I had no idea
And
what he
if
was
you
talking
got
about.
and if you're not down with Xpan, I got 2 words for you. Trust me, if you get the joke, you get the joke.
Yeah. I don't get it.
I'm with you on there, Greg.
Yes, like as Scott said, sorry, it was a wrestling joke. Well, that's fair enough. Um, okay, so with Xpan, I think that's like you said, it was a quite a simple app. Um, was it free? Did you say
No, it was 199.
199?
But
Okay, well that's pretty good.
it's a purchase only. There's no subscription, there's no add-on. It's
Yeah.
199 and that's all you have to do.
Okay, well that's cool. A nice inexpensive way to get a panoramic app that has a few extra features, so, over and above what the iPhone can give you. Um, so next we're gonna go with Dwight, and
Okay.
you got one called 65 by 24 panoramic camera.
Yeah, so this one is very similar to the one that Dave featured. Let me see if I can show it there.
Yep.
Very similar. It supports the 13, 24, 48, 100, and 200 millimeter um, zoom distances.
Okay.
I would say the biggest difference between this one and the one that Dave featured was this one does not have the emulations. You notice how Dave made the black and white photo. I
Yeah.
cannot do
Yeah.
that with this one. It'll just take the photo as it is. But the reason I like this one is that I can get a raw output file with it. Now, I looked at the Xpan one that Dave was talking about. It'll output a HEIF or hike or whatever it is that's processed, but the unprocessed file is hike as well. This one I can get, the JPEG or hike with the actual raw output,
Hmm.
and that's why I like it. Um, just a couple points I think on the Apple camera as well. Uh, Dave made some good points, as far as composition and making sure you have the right lens. And I think one of the nice things you can do is just frame up your shot with your different lenses and do just a practice pano to see what's in there. I think many times you're going to find that the 0.5 lens is going to be able to capture more of what you're trying to take a photo of. So for me at least, I like to have a nice foreground, whether it's tree branches, maybe a river, and then some clouds in the background. So foreground, midground, and then background. So if you have a bendy river, sure, the panorama will look great if you're at the river height, but if you can get above it and capture that bend in the river inside the pano, then you've got I think a lot more interesting composition. So um, back to Dave's photo, the black and white of the train track, he had an opportunity to catch the rail, the train tracks, and you had the foreground and you had the background, which is where the building's kind of shrouded by fog, which makes it. He captured the three elements there, which is interesting, and he was able to kind of spread it out and catch everything out on the sides that really kind of frame it here. You've got the trees and the bushes or whatever they are on both sides, kind of frames it. My point is to kind of consider where you're standing. So as Dave has here, maybe move around and look to see what the best composition you can get. Another thing I didn't realize was that you can start the pano from right or left. There's an arrow once you're in the pano mode. You just tap it and it'll switch the arrow to the other side. And I remember from my iPhone photography school days, I remember emails saying that you should always start your pano from the side that has the most interesting details. I don't know why, because I think if you do it right, all that stuff is going to be in there. But something about capturing the finer details in the beginning of your pano should dictate which way you go. I mean, I'm kind of a left or right reader, so I've always done them left to right. I don't know how the algorithm is nowadays, but a few years back, the stitching that Apple would do when you're doing your pano sometimes would get messed up. So it's always encouraged to do two of them if you can, just in case there's something that hiccups there. But yeah, it's a fun way to shoot and experiment, and I would say go out and give it a shot.
Mm-hmm. Um, just to touch on the Apple camera one again, just while I got it in my mind, because if I don't get it out now, I know I'll forget. But I always tend to tap and hold to lock the focus and exposure. That way, when you're going across making your panel, if there's any difference in lighting from one side to the other, the camera's not going to try to compensate for that. I've noticed that on like a cloudy day where the sun may break through. If it hits the bright part, the camera will adjust its exposure to compensate for that brighter part of the frame.
Mm-hmm.
So as you're going across, lock your focus and exposure, and that way it's going to be basically how you see it. That's how the
It would be
panel's
nice to
gonna
be able
work
to
out.
lock white balance as well, but we don't have that capability on the
Not on
standard app.
not on
Yeah.
the photo camera. No, on the video side, yes, you can
Yeah.
lock it. You can have it set so that you can lock the white balance as soon as you hit record. Um, so your first image, Dwight, is right there,
Yeah.
and
So, go ahead, Greg.
I was just going to say this was taken with the 65 by 24 panoramic camera app, correct?
65 by 24, and I brought it out as a raw photo into uh, Lightroom Mobile, and put the frame on it. Yeah, I mean, it was a simple raw file that I essentially developed myself in Lightroom. I didn't spend a lot of time and separating elements or anything like that. I thought that just the minimal work that I did on it, um, was enough. It didn't look like an over processed uh, iPhone photo, out of the camera. It looked kind of filmic to start. So I just did some basic tonal adjustments and caught this surfer down at San Onofre.
Hmm. So now, is this just how you cropped it with the black border around there, or did it actually take it that way?
I added that border in Lightroom after
Oh,
in
okay,
post. Yeah. So the
okay,
actual photo is everything minus the border. I believe everything out of camera is what you see there in the photo.
right, okay.
I'm not sure if it
Yeah.
cropped my photo down now that I'm thinking about it. I have to look at that, but I don't think it did.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Um,
was going to ask about the border since it's thicker on the sides and thinner on the top
Yeah.
and bottom.
mhm, mhm.
That's nice. It isn't because for something like this, you don't really want to have a consistent border all the way around.
Right. Right. Yeah, I agree with that. I think the
It
shorter
almost
side
gives
should
you
be a little thicker. Yeah.
it almost gives you the feeling of the older uh stick cameras that you had to pull away. You had to pull like you got the film out and you had to pull it, and there was always that little extra thickness on the sides where you actually pull it apart.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep. Yeah, and I'm really all about right now is kind of the filmic look. I'm really trying to just stick with as close as I can get to film as opposed to over processed stuff. And I really like how this worked on this one.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's not overly saturated. The colors are rather muted and
Hmm.
um, good contrast. It has that. Um, to me, it reminds me a little bit of like a Kodak Gold,
Mm,
but I
yeah.
mean, it's it there's different. Back when we talked about film sims and that, there's different cameras that have probably the same film sim, but they might render them differently. It depends on how they did their algorithm. But yeah, no, that's really cool. Um, your next image is all about the vertical.
Yeah. This was taken with the same app. And this is Victoria Tower down in Laguna Beach. This was a tower that has a staircase in it that was the way for the family to get down to the beach. It was made in the early 1900s, so it's kind of an iconic spot for taking photos. Bette Midler actually owned this house for a while, and that's how she
Oh
got down
wow.
to the beach. But it it was a little harrowing getting here because the tide was pretty high, so I had to really just kind of get in there in between the waves. They were actually almost up to my waist early morning. I didn't feel like swimming, so I got in and out of there. But this was another raw output file that I took into Lightroom. I did just the basic adjustments, and I went into Lightroom. If you have the paid version, everybody knows I use Photoshop and Lightroom, so I have to pay for that. But what's nice about the Lightroom camera app is that it will analyze your photo and suggest presets to use, based on what it sees in your photo. And
Hmm.
honestly, this was one of them. And I just thought that this gave it a moody look, and it was pretty much done. I think I did a little bit of balance and contrast just to kind of get it right. And then this was one of the suggested presets that Lightroom offered. I'm trying to get more in the habit of color grading my photos at the end of the edit.
Hmm.
It was a real kind of a cloudy day, and I think it really captured uh, just kind of the beauty of the fog and everything that's coming in. So
Well,
if I
Will
took it
likes it
with
for
my
sure.
regular camera, I
Oh
would have
yeah,
had to be further back, or I would have had to use an ultra wide or something like that. So I think Pano in this
yeah,
case
yeah,
worked.
yeah, yeah. It's interesting how it gave that dark um, down the left hand side.
Mhm.
I don't know if that's part of the preset
It
or
is.
yeah,
So it's like
I
a
guess
linear, or it's like a radial gradient, I think, that was kind of
yeah,
stretched out a little bit in there.
Mm. It's
yeah.
almost like a bleed in,
Hmm.
in terms of if this was a color, I could see that being like a light leak just
Hmm.
because
Oh yeah,
it's
yeah,
very uneven on the
Yeah.
left.
yeah,
It
yeah.
isn't just a straight gradient, it has that unevenness to it.
Hmm. Well,
So,
it
Will, sounds like you've been to the Victoria Tower. You probably have taken that walk, the same one that I did to get over there.
the preset really does fit the image. Like it
Hmm.
really gives it a mood. And but getting to the panorama part of it, the vertical panel really works with this image because the tower is tall and thin,
Hmm.
and you got the cliffside down the one side, you got, basically open water and beach and sky on the left. So I mean, it all works. It just most people probably don't think of doing a vertical panel, and I'm hoping that this kind of sparks people's imagination a bit, because
Yeah, yeah,
it
and the
definitely
leading lines
works.
of the wet sand where the wave just retracted
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
walks you into the photo as well. You
yeah.
really
That's
don't
right.
need any more, right? To the left is just open sea, to the right is just more rocks.
Yeah, yeah, and that the wet sand. I mean, it could be argued that you can cut a lot of that bottom part off.
Hmm.
I'm just covering it with my fingers here as I look at the screen, and it works. But
Hmm.
having that extra room at the bottom, but having it filled with the wet sand, it's still a point of interest to me. So,
Well, thank
the
you.
the long vertical panel like that really works. So, yeah, that's cool. Um, let's see here. So, did you cover all the points that you wanted to cover there, Dwight, before we move on?
Yeah, I did. Just some
I'm just
basic,
looking at the,
thoughts as, prior to executing the shot, from a composition standpoint. Yeah,
yeah, okay.
I'm good.
Alrighty. Okay, so Dale made this comment: shoot several RAWs with the tele lens, multi-layered into Photoshop Lightroom, huge image to crop and print. Well, Dale, the reason I said hold that thought is because this is basically what I'm going to cover is taking multiple shots and then stitching them together. Um, I mean, the iPhone camera app stitches it as it goes. It does a fantastic job, and like Dave said earlier, it does it a lot better now than it used to. Um, so what I like to do is, I mean, I like to claim that I take a photographic approach to my iPhone photography, and by doing that, I'll try just about anything I could do with a conventional camera, except work the aperture. But even I can do that with portrait mode. I mean, it's not a real aperture and it's not a real depth of field. It's all computational. Yes, we know that, but I can play around with it. Um, so what I'll do is I'll take a few different images and I'll put them together. And when I do it on the phone, there's an app called, and Shane Mostyn brought this up the last time we had him on. It's called BMO Stitch. Or did he? No, maybe this was in his latest video. He did a video where he did a panorama of the Milky Way, and it turned out crazy good. Shane, if you're in here, let me know, because that's pretty cool. And anyway, I'll tell you what, I'll even link to that video in the show notes because it's a good watch. So with BMO Stitch, there's a free version, and then there's the paid version. And I think the limitation of the free version is the amount of resolution that you can get, maybe. I'm not 100% sure. The paid version, I don't think it's that expensive. Dave, if you can look it up, um, unless you've bought it. If you haven't bought it, can you look it up and see what the price is? Um, anyway, it's rather simple. You open BMO Stitch, and in one of the, I might as well open it so I can get this right. Let me see here. Go to my photography folder. There it is. Okay, so at the top of the screen, at the right hand corner, there's three dots, but then beside that, there's the picture icon, and you tap that, and that's where you can select. Well, you can select photos or videos, but select photos, and then if you know you've taken uh, two, three, four, whatever, however many pictures you've taken to make your panorama, you bring them in. But I guess I better back up, because the important part of doing it this way, of doing a multi-shot panel, is that when you when you start, you take your shot, and then when you move your camera, you want to overlap by at least 30%. and then take that shot, and then take your next shot and have the overlap again. And everybody's looking at my hands here on YouTube, but I'm just trying to show you the what I mean by the overlap, because what you need to do is give BMO stitch something to line up from one shot to the next. And I think this too is where it's important to lock your focus and exposure, because if you don't lock your exposure, then if the scene changes in brightness, it'll compensate for that and it'll make a mess of it. So again, probably one of the most important parts of doing a panel is locking the focus and exposure. That way you get consistency all the way across. So anyway, you select your images and then you hit the check mark and it just lines them up. It just lines them up. I don't know what else I could tell you. Here's one that I did. We're going to look at it here shortly. And this one, I'm not sure if it's the first one. I'll save my description of this one just till it comes up on the screen, because I don't want to give it a spoiler. But this one, okay, let's look at this one. This isn't one of the ones I'm going to show, but this was a 2-shot panorama, and I overlapped it, around where the middle is, and it just lined them up perfectly. So, and that's basically it for BMO stitch. It just lines them up. It doesn't do any, it doesn't do anything as far as processing goes, as far as, contrast, color, any of that stuff. All it does is it stitches it together, and then you hit the share icon, then that's when you can save it to your photo gallery, and then from then on, then you can do your editing. So a BMO stitch is crazy good. This one here I'm going to show you.
Hey, Greg, I've got a question. It looks like the output on that is either a JPEG or a PNG, at least in the paid version. And
It could be.
Also,
no,
looks like you can control the compression quality, a lot of other things on there. So yeah, that's kind of neat.
Okay, yeah. So seam detection in the options, blending strength, projection. I never really looked at any of these settings. Oh, I guess it does do a little bit of exposure. It'll balance out exposure differences. Now this is the paid version, so I don't know what the free version has. And you can adjust the exposure balancing strength.
I think it defaults at 80.
Defaults at 80, yeah.
Yeah.
Auto lens calibration. Output, maximum size, 200 megapixel, but it could go up to a gigapixel, 1,000 megapixels. That's interesting. I didn't even look at the screen, to be honest with you. Here I am talking about the app.
Well, and Greg, I did look at the. It is $6.99 for the Pro, but like that's a one-time purchase.
That's
and
pretty
what
reasonable.
And what it lists as Pro features are fast stitching, higher quality output. So basically, it maintains the quality of the source photos. No ads. Let's see here. Yeah, video to panorama for converting videos of panning motion in panorama. So yeah, I guess with that one, if you just do video sweep, it'll actually cut out and make it that. It compresses large panos, auto color balancing, seam detection modes, save previews and load them up later, adjust intensity of auto exposure, control the blending intensity, auto lens calibration for lens distortion. So that's all the extra. But if you're just looking at basically, now I would say this: if you're looking just to see if it's something that'll work in terms of giving you output, getting the light version's fine.
Yeah.
And that'll give you high res, so you can, if it actually, you can test it and say, well, you know what, this actually does work for what I want to do. I want to invest the $6.99 and get the extra stuff going on.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is, I never even dove into those settings before, because it just did that good of a job in anything that I've wanted it to do. Um, Dale says BMO Stitch won't have the ability to edit the raw details of each to really pull the details out and combine. Yes,
Yeah.
that's true. But it really stitches well. Like you can't even see where the overlap is. Like it just lines things up so well. And I mean, part of the mastery of doing a multi-shot panel is really the way you turn your phone too. You want to try to, if you can, turn your phone on the axis of the camera. So where my fingers are above and below the camera's array here, just try to turn it there like that. Don't go from over here to over here to over here. Just kind of turn the phone on the camera axis if you can. That's going to give you the best shot at a the way it lines up to lining up better. So this image that I have pulled up here is a 2-shot panel. No, wait, sorry, 4-shot. This is a 4-shot panel. It was a miserable, wet, rainy day, and I just took the picture from my truck window from the side of a road, and and these were, I think they were vertical shots, and just I overlapped them like 30% or whatever, and it just stitched them together. And of course, I processed this in Luminar Neo is what I did them on the desktop. And full disclosure, that's a replaced sky. The clouds that were there initially were not so exciting. So I found this one in Luminar Neo and did a sky replacement and made it look a lot cooler. But no, I mean it just really lines them up nicely. And then once you output it as a JPEG, then you could take it into a whether it's the Photos app or any editing app of your choice, and then you can just go to town on the edit. But as far as the stitching goes and to make the panel, that's definitely the way to go. My second image is a 5-shot panel. Now there's a little bit cropped off the left-hand side because I just thought it looked a little out of balance. But this was 5 48 megapixel ProRAW files. And the resolution on this was insanely big. And so, like, getting back to Dale's point he made earlier about a huge image file to crop or print, this would be one that I would do really big if I thought I can get away with it. And by that I mean I got no wall space for it.
Now, Greg, what's the output of that though after you did the work in BMO Stitch?
I output it as JPEG.
Okay.
And when I take it into Luminar Neo, I mean, I could have done the stitching in Luminar Neo, but we're looking at iPhone apps here. Luminar Neo, if I'd have stitched it there, it would have taken those ProRAW files, and then as soon as you do anything like stitch it or whatever, it turns it into a TIFF, and it would be a massive file. But with BMO Stitch outputting as a JPEG, I forget what the file size was, to be honest with you. But the resolution was pretty big. Like it was something like, I want to say 17,000 pixels across or something like that. Like it was crazy big. But it's 5 ProRAW shots, bang, 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 bang. And then in Luminar Neo, the fall update is out now, and it has this thing called light depth. And it is such an amazing tool where the trees, they looked a lot darker than they do there. There wasn't no brightness to them, no brilliance to them. And then that light depth thing, it just lit up the trees while leaving the very bottom of the foreground and leaving the background, to be darker like that. And it's just such a cool tool to use. And anyway, so BMO Stitch, try the free one, give it a shot. Try taking a few stills across, and you could start working with one, or you can do three, five, whatever, four, doesn't matter. Um, Not working with one, but two. You can start working with two and just overlap them by 30% or whatever. Give it a try. If you really like what it does, I recommend spending the few dollars that it is for the pro version, because if you're going to do some panoramas like that, it's definitely worth the money. And I think one last thing I want to talk about here real quick
Oh,
before
Greg, before
we,
you move on,
yep.
before you move
Hmm.
on, just because internet stuff is spelled so weird these days, it's
Oh yeah.
BIMOSTITCH, all one word.
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
when you hear BMO, it could be BEEMO, BIMO,
Yep.
BIIMO,
Yeah.
trying to get,
Well,
because you
we'll have
can't
links to all
copyright
these
it.
apps
Right,
in the show notes too.
right. But for those who are just listening right
But
now and maybe
yeah.
can't look down, like if you're
Right.
driving, don't look at the screen.
Yeah. But yeah, so it's definitely worth the um worth picking up, because it's it remember, Dave, back in the Tiny Shutter days, there was an app that we really liked using for
Hmm.
stitching, that auto
Yep,
stitch. It was called auto
yep,
stitch. But then when iOS went from 32-bit to 64-bit, the developers didn't pursue that, and they didn't
yep.
switch it over, so it died. And that was one of the biggest
Oh,
letdowns amongst us, on the podcast at the time.
oh yeah, because
Uh, but
it was magic.
it
And,
was
and there was
fantastic.
nothing at the time close. There wasn't really anything at the time close.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we definitely missed that one. But BMO Stitch, I think it's probably. I mean, I don't know of any other apps on the market that do this. There's probably plenty out there. I just haven't looked for them. Um, don't need to. BMO Stitch seems to do it all. So I want to end off with, like, when you think of panorama, you think of uh, grand vistas, wide shots and all this stuff. But don't stop there. Don't be afraid to get in close, um, like I did with this macro shot. And I talk about this in the book a little bit. Um, a shot like this, to me, would look really cool blown up and put on the wall, like behind your sofa or something like that. Um,
Mhm.
so this was taken with the Reflex 240, with a 300 millimeter add-on, macro add-on. And I think it just looks so cool in that wide aspect ratio. Like, this is the X-pan ratio, 65 by 24. And if I shot this, I could have probably shot one with the 17 Pro. Now I could shoot something like this in 48 megapixel and have plenty of
Mhm.
pixels to blow it up at a good size. So I mean, don't hesitate to crop or even shoot with an app that can shoot it, a macro or anything with that ratio. It really shows well, I think, and really opens up the uh, it broadens your horizons as far as doing a panel goes. Like, basically, I don't know, what would you call this, a macro panel or
Yeah,
close up panel?
that's- yeah. I would
There's
say definitely a macro pano. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Um,
Hey, Greg,
so
there's a couple
that's
of other things real quick that I'd like to mention if you don't mind.
yeah.
Some third-party camera apps have a pano option in it. We talked about Mood Camera in the past. You can select an X-pan um, ratio for
Hmm.
those shots as well.
Hmm.
Other ones like DazCam, they have a specific camera within the selections of cameras that you can use. That's an X-pan as well. So there's a few of those that are out there in third-party apps. It doesn't necessarily have to be a dedicated um, app for that ratio.
Right. Yeah. Um, what did Dale say here? The Luminar Neo is fantastic for color and creative touches. I use it on nearly all my images. Yeah, yeah. I'm really digging Luminar Neo. I haven't touched Affinity Photo since I got it, really. So yeah, it's definitely pretty cool. Um,
Yeah.
I wanted to give an honorable mention to a panel camera app. Now this is going to get confusing, folks. It's called 65 by 24 panoramic camera. The same name that Dwight talked about, but the one that Dwight talked about in the App Store, it has capital
Capital.
letters.
Yeah.
It's all capitalized, the word panoramic camera. This one is all small letters except for the first letter of each word. So it's 65 by 24 panoramic camera, same name, but it's I call it the reheld of panel camera apps because it's so simple, it's free, it's uh Reheld's not free, but it's it's simple. It's just like Reheld. It's simple to use. You point, you shoot. That's it. Now there are some settings where you can change from. It looks like it goes from the 1x to the 5x or 4x, depending on the phone you have, or 3x. Basically, it goes from the main camera to the telephoto camera. That's it. As far as camera selection goes. And then you can turn the flash on or off. You can turn the grid lines on and off, and you have a level indicator, and that's all that this app has.
Yep. You can't focus.
Yeah, you can't even tap to focus.
Yeah.
So, but it's only been out for a few months. Oh, excuse me. It's only been out for a few months, so I would suspect that maybe they're going to add a few more features, and maybe they'll put a paywall behind it if they add enough to it to make it worth paying for. But at this point, it's free. There'll be a link in the show notes to it. If you've never used a third-party panel camera app, maybe give it a try. Dip your toes in the water, and if you like what you got, and you want to go a little further, then you could try some of these other ones that we've been talking about tonight. And just a bonus tip real quick is I stumbled upon this app called Aspect Ratio Pro, and it's a rule of three calculator, not to be confused with the rule of thirds. So what it does is if you've got your 4x3 camera, like 4x3 image that the camera takes by default, and you want to crop to a panoramic aspect ratio, whether it's a 65 by 24 or something else like 16 by 9, whatever. Say you're in an editing app where these presets aren't available, and this is kind of an edge case, but I saw this and it was free, and I thought, I'll talk about it real quick. So the reason it's called rule of three is because you've got, if the mathematical equation would be A is to B as C is to D. So A being, say, 65, B being 24, and then C would be whatever your dimension is that you want to put it at. So you got your 65 to 24, and then say you want to go, say, 2,000 pixels long, and then it'll tell you how many pixels high it would be. So it's, again, it's like an edge case type of thing. But if you're looking at printing and you want to know if you got enough pixels to do it in that certain ratio or whatever, that would be kind of the point of it. I just thought it was kind of a cool thing to mention real quick because it's iPhone and Mac. So I imagine the Mac would probably, well, maybe either one would work on the iPad. I don't know. But in the App Store, it just says iPhone and Mac. So it's kind of a cool little calculating thing where you can figure out how many pixels the aspect ratio is. So you can just punch those numbers in your resizing thing. So I just wanted to throw it out there. So, well, I think that's about all we got to cover. So any more thoughts on this whole panorama thing, guys?
No, just get out and try it. Have some fun.
Yeah. I enjoy doing panels. In fact, I just updated my website, page. I have a page in my portfolio section dedicated to panoramics, and I was going to pull it up. To heck with it. I'll put a link in the show notes to the page where I just put in about 18 or 19 panel shots that I've taken over the last few years, and hey, maybe it'll give you some inspiration. I don't know, but some of them are stitched, some of them are with the Apple Camera app, and some of them are with these apps that do that expand ratio. So get out there and give it a shot. Put them in the Facebook group. There's a link to that in the show notes. Of course, if you're watching or listening, you probably are in the group, hopefully. And Will says, thank you all. Well, thank you, Will, for joining us so early in the morning.
Yeah.
I hope you got enough espressos into you to get your day started. And
yeah, thanks everyone.
Yeah. Definitely
so,
want to thank Will and Dale for being so active in chat.
Yeah. And let's not forget Mr. Baker, the wrestling joke guy. What did he say here earlier? I might as well just throw this up too. Any 30-second apps? And of course, I had to answer. I said, they're all 30-second apps, LOL. And I was typing in a hurry, and so I could see my my typo there. But yeah, well, thanks to everybody who supports the show. Thanks for everybody that was listening and watching online live tonight. And if you're listening on the podcast player, thank you. And to anybody and everybody who supports the show in any way they can, that's great. And I guess we'll see you all in the next one.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a great one, everyone.